If you watch the Toys R Us video, you already know how this story ends. In the year 2000, Toys R Us signed a 10-year exclusive deal, handing their online business to Amazon. They told their customers, if you want to buy a toy from us online, here's the link. And the link went to Amazon.com. By the time the deal fell apart, Amazon knew the toy business better than Toys R Us did. In 2001, a year later, Borders did the same thing. Customers who tried to buy a book from Borders.com landed on a page that was built, hosted, and operated by Amazon. Borders did not own the technology. Borders did not own the customer data. Borders did not own the customer relationship. By the time Borders tried to build their own e-commerce in 2008, they were 7 years behind. By 2011, they were filing for bankruptcy. The popular story about Borders is that Amazon and the Kindle killed them. That story is correct in a general way and wrong in a specific way. Amazon didn't kill Borders the way disruptors usually kill incumbents. Borders gave Amazon the keys. This is the 6th case study in the 4 forces. Quick recap. Every company is shaped by 4 forces: market, the conditions they operate in; money, how they're funded and what that costs them; management, the decisions made at the top; moment, the timing and events they didn't choose. All 4 are always present. Only one is decisive. Let's find Borders. The book retail market in 2000 looked on its face like a market under threat. Amazon had launched in 1995. By 2000, it was clearly working. Amazon's revenue had grown from a few million to nearly $3 billion in 5 years. But the threat was uneven. Amazon's strength was the long tail, academic books, technical books, hard-to-find titles that brick-and-mortar stores couldn't justify shelf space for. Front-list bestsellers and discovery-driven shopping were still very much a physical store strength. Through the 2000s, the U.S. book market was actually fairly healthy. Total U.S. book sales grew until about 2007. The big box bookstore experience, coffee shops, comfortable chairs, deep selection, was a real consumer proposition that millions of people preferred to mail order shopping. Then in 2007, the Kindle launched. Then in 2010, the iPad. The market for physical books started shifting toward digital books in a serious way. By the early 2010s, ebooks were a real category, though never the dominant one. Physical books are still the majority of the market today. So the market changed, but Barnes & Noble lived through it. Independent bookstores, after a long decline, are now in a slow recovery. The market was hard but survivable. Market, a real shift but survivable. This is where Borders looks different from Toys R Us, and the difference matters. Borders, throughout the 2000s, was not a heavily leveraged company. They had debt, but it was conventional retail debt, about $300 million at peak, against revenue that was around $4 billion in their best years. Their debt-to-revenue ratio was a fraction of what Toys R Us was carrying after the LBO. Borders had cash to invest. They had the credit to raise more cash if they needed to. They had a recognizable brand and a national footprint. The financial constraints that made the Toys R Us story tragic are not the story here. Borders had room to invest in their future. They chose not to. That's the part of the money picture worth holding on to. The financial structure was not the cage. The financial structure was the option that didn't get used. By the time Borders did need to raise money, late 2000s, after the strategic damage was already done, the credit markets had tightened, the business was bleeding cash, and the same options that would have been available in 2001 were no longer available in 2009. Money, not decisive. Borders had room to invest and chose not to. This is the decisive force, and the case has 3 pieces. Piece 1, the Amazon partnership. In 2001, Borders signed a deal making Amazon their online sales channel. Customers who went to Borders.com were redirected to a co-branded experience that Amazon ran. Amazon kept the technology stack. Amazon kept the customer accounts. Amazon kept the data on what people were buying, what they were searching for, what they put in their carts and didn't buy. For 7 years, Borders had a website that was, in every meaningful sense, an Amazon page with a Borders logo on it. The reason Borders made this deal is the same reason Toys R Us made theirs. E-commerce was hard. Building a real online business required investment, technology, logistics, and a multi-year horizon before it would pay back. Borders looked at the math, decided the investment wasn't worth it relative to a simpler partnership, and accepted the partnership. The piece they got wrong was that the data was the asset. Amazon didn't just operate Borders' website for them. Amazon operated Borders' website and learned from it. By 2008, when the deal expired and Borders started running their own site, Amazon had 7 years of consumer behavior data, including all of Borders' customer behavior, and Borders was starting fresh. Piece 2, the Kindle. The Kindle launched in November of 2007. Amazon spent the next 2 years building a real platform. The device, the bookstore, the customer accounts, the recommendation engine. By the time Barnes & Noble responded with the Nook in October 2009, Amazon already had a 2-year head start on the dominant e-reader category. Borders' response was to partner with Kobo, a Canadian e-reader maker, in early 2010. 3 years late on a multi-year platform race, partnering with the third-place player. Barnes & Noble at least built a real digital reading platform of their own before the window closed. Borders never got there. They were trying to rent their way into a market that required ownership. Piece 3, the international and category mistakes. Borders also expanded internationally, UK, Australia, Singapore, through the 2000s and into music and DVDs at exactly the moment those categories were collapsing under the same digital shift. Each of those moves drained capital that could have gone into e-commerce. The composite picture is a company that, given a decade of strategic choices, almost always picked the option that preserved current operations at the expense of digital infrastructure. Each individual decision was defensible at the time. The accumulation was fatal. In February of 2011, Borders filed for Chapter 11. By September, they had liquidated. Management decisive. The 2008 financial crisis hit Borders the way it hit every retailer. Consumer spending dropped, holiday seasons got harder, refinancing costs rose. The Kindle launch in 2007 and the broader rise of ebooks were moment events that closed off some of Borders' remaining options. By 2011, the long shift from physical to digital was real enough to put pressure on every brick-and-mortar bookseller, but these were accelerants, not causes. Barnes & Noble lived through both. The Kindle did not kill them. The recession did not kill them. The same forces hit Borders, but Borders had no margin left because the strategic capacity to absorb shocks had been spent on the Amazon deal and the international expansion. Moment, an accelerant, not the cause. So let's grade them out. Market, a real shift but survivable. Money, not decisive. Borders had room to invest. Moment, an accelerant. Management, decisive. Borders didn't lose to Amazon the way Toys R Us did. They invited Amazon in. They handed over the technology, the customer data, and the e-commerce relationship for 7 years, and then tried to start over from zero in a market Amazon had spent those 7 years dominating. This is the cross-episode lesson. Toys R Us was about money, a company killed by a financial structure that took its options away. Borders was about management, a company killed by strategic choices that gave its options away. Both hit the same wall. The wall was Amazon. The framework gives different verdicts because the underlying reason each company couldn't get past the wall was different. Toys R Us couldn't afford to build their own e-commerce. Borders could have. They chose to outsource it instead. There's a generalization in this. When a company has financial room and still loses, the verdict is almost always management. When a company has good management and still loses, the verdict is almost always money or market. The framework is asking you to find the binding constraint, and the binding constraint is whichever one was actually preventing the company from doing the right thing. Borders had every constraint released except one, the willingness to commit. That's a management story. And it's the story you should expect to find in most modern collapses, because in the post-1980s era of cheap capital and global supply chains, the things companies need to compete are mostly available. What's scarce is the discipline to use them. Next case, the only company in this lineup that almost died made the cuts and came back stronger. Lego, on the verge of bankruptcy in 2003, and the man who saved it by saying no to almost